Build a Big Podcast. David Hooper here. Twisted Sister. If you're over 40, you probably know that name. You've likely heard the songs, specifically one song, We're Not Gonna Take It. That seems to come around every few years whenever somebody's pissed at something. But even if you're a casual fan, you may not know the history of the group. They started in 1972, and they were what we call road warriors. I found something interesting in their Wikipedia article. It says this: by December 1974, when the first version of the band broke up, JJ, that's the guitar player and founder, had played nearly 600 nights and about 3,000 performances as the band played 5 40-minute shows per night, each with costume changes, some ending as late as 8 a.m. the following morning. That is a lot of work. And because of that work, Twisted Sister did very well and were respected in the industry. If you would go up to Long Island, New York, everybody knew who they were. But they didn't find nationwide mainstream success until they were about 10 years in. There is a lesson there. But there's also another lesson. I want you to listen to this clip of lead singer Dee Snider being interviewed by Brian Koppelman. If you don't know the name Brian Koppelman, just to introduce him, right now he's known for a show he's doing called Billions, but you may have seen his other work, Rounders. He also did that, Ocean's 13, Girlfriend Experience. Before that, and this is how I became first aware of him, he was in the music industry. He discovered Tracy Chapman. His father, SBK Records, the K stands for Koppelman. Wilson Phillips was on there, Vanilla Ice. He's got a nice entertainment industry pedigree. Anyway, listen to this clip with Dee Snider from Twisted Sister talking about meeting Brian Koppelman.
Brian, we meet, and Brian's now working for a record label, and we wind up doing a deal with Elektra, and he tells me he's seen Twisted Sister 35 times, some crazy amount of times. And I said, why did you come see us 35 times? Brian said, I'll get back to you on that. I don't know if it was the next day or the next time I see him. He comes in, he goes, the question you asked me, why did I come to see you 35 times? Because I believed you believed. And I was like, what kind of idiot savant gibberish is this? What does that mean? He goes, you were so committed, so passionate, and we couldn't help but follow you.
Right.
Yeah, that's what you said to me.
I remember feeling like this matters to this fucking guy so much. You know, that it mattered to you in a way that was different. Your belief in not only your power and what you were doing, but in the power of rock and roll to save you. You know, everyone talks about Bruce, and I love Bruce. But Bon Scott, you, and Bruce somehow all had this notion that rock and roll was the bridge to some kind of personal salvation.
That was Dee Snider from Twisted Sister talking about meeting Brian Koppelman. The guys that Brian was talking about, by the way, Bruce, that's Bruce Springsteen. Bon Scott, the first singer for AC/DC. And the big idea there is this: you were so committed, we couldn't help but follow you. Think about that for a second. You've met people like that. Somebody that, even if you don't agree with that person, you still respect him for jumping in fully. Ask yourself, am I that person? Am I jumping in fully? If not, what would it take for you to become that person? You need to change the overall topic of your podcast? Do you need to change who you're associating with? Maybe you're solo. You need to add a co-host. Maybe the co-host that you've got, he's not working for you. Do you need better guests? Just something to chew on. What I often find when people aren't having podcast success, when they're not building the audience that they think that they deserve or they want, it's something really small, just a few degrees off. It's not that they've got no idea what they're doing or they're doing something wrong. It's that what they are doing is just a little bit off. And that just a little bit, that makes all the difference. When that happens, you're not 98% committed or 99% committed. You're 100% committed. And I know it sounds new age or woo-woo, but that totality, that makes all the difference. I was in middle school, junior high, when Twisted Sister really hit big. I was never a big Twisted Sister fan. But like Brian Koppelman, even as a kid, I could tell that Dee Snider had that commitment. And when I did my last music business book, it's been out a few years. It's called Six Figure Musician. I was looking for somebody to do the forward on it. Dee Snider was one of the guys on my short list. It wasn't because of his music. It was because I knew about his work ethic. I knew he jumped in fully and he walked the talk. And if you're that person who walks the talk, you've got the foundation that you need to succeed with your podcast. It might not happen right away. Maybe you're like Twisted Sister. Maybe it takes a few years, but it will happen because people see you and they respect you. And then they get to know you. And when they get to know you, they see that you really are fully committed. It's not just the talk, it's the walk as well. And that's how you grow fans. I've been helping people do this forever. Well, not forever, since the mid-90s. I started out in the music industry. That's how I know about Twisted Sister, Brian Koppelman, and some of these other guys. And I've taken those concepts of building an audience, one fan at a time. I've brought them to you as a podcaster, as an expert, as somebody with a message to spread. If you are interested in talking to me about that, bigpodcast.com is the website. You can reach out to me there. If you want to hear more from me on this podcast, subscribe. I'm here all the time. I talk about building an audience. It's having that deep connection with your fans and making money with your message. To hear more from me, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. One click is all it takes, whether you're on iPhone, Android, you want an old-fashioned RSS feed, I've got it there for you, bigpodcast.com/subscribe. And when you're ready to build that audience, reach out to me, bigpodcast.com. Thank you for listening to Build a Big Podcast. I'll see you on the next episode.